One, I was my husband's childhood sweetheart. He never failed to pursue me for 2 long decades. He loved me like I was his life and cherished me deeply. But then, suddenly, just a month ago, he cheated on me. Everybody knew except me. But I was just pretending like I hadn't caught them and still played along like a naive wife. That was until I erased every last trace of my existence. And then, I disappeared. Only then did that bastard look for me like crazy. One, Miss Wigington, are you absolutely sure you want to cancel your ID, passport, everything? It's gonna be a real pain in the ass if you ever need to get them back. It'll be like you won't even exist anymore. The clerk kept trying to talk me out of it, but I didn't even hesitate. I slid the forms over her across the counter. That's the point. I need to disappear so I can start over. I knew how much Heather loved me, or at least how much he used to. He wouldn't stop until he found me, not unless I erased every single part of my existence. Shannon Wigington had to disappear completely. It was the only way. After finishing all the paperwork, I went home and pulled out my phone to double-check my escape plan. My eyes landed on the wedding photo on my lock screen, and for a second, I froze. One, back when we got married, he wanted to give me the grandest wedding imaginable, so he spent a fortune buying a private island. He even named the island Longing for Shannon, to declare his sincere love for me to the world. When he made the announcement, it blew up online. And then, of course, the story of him donating his bone marrow to save me 5 years ago came out too. Our so-called love that defied death won over the internet. Even our wedding live stream, which I only casually started, ended up pulling in millions. Now, though, looking at that photo, all I could feel was this heavy bitterness. From the moment we met, he had chased after me relentlessly for 20 years. One, maybe because when Mom's genetic disease got worse, Dad dumped her in a hospital, and it left me with abandonment issues. At her funeral, I promised myself I'd never hand my future over to anyone. No expectations, no heartbreaks. Heather was standing next to me that day. He was just a kid himself, but he tried to act all grown up. He patted my shoulder and said, "I'll never leave you, Shannon." I didn't take his words like a promise. Didn't believe it for a second. For the next 15 years, I ignored everything he did for me. Honestly, in my head, I was just waiting for him to give up on me. But then I got really sick, the kind where you start counting your goodbyes. And that's when he signed the papers to donate his bone marrow without even hesitating. One, the surgery saved my life. The second he woke up, he dragged himself over to confess to me. He was still half drugged, barely able to stand. But his eyes were shining as he said, "I did it for you." Even then, though, I didn't say yes to him. For 5 years, he told me he loved met every chance he got. Thousands of times. Then one day, I noticed the gray hairs creeping into his hairline, and my heart cracked a little. That's when I caved. I'll never forget the look on his face when I finally said yes. He didn't waste a second to pull out the ring he'd been carrying for who knows how long onto my finger. He even handed over all his assets, I mean, everything he had. I refused to take a single thing and just looked at him, teary-eyed. One, I'm saying yes, but remember I can take it back anytime. From now on, if you ever leave me even once, I'll make sure you can't find me again. Heather, you only get one chance. I said those harsh words like I meant them, but honestly, I never doubted him. Not once. Until a month ago when he cheated on me. I'm not the kind of person who waits around to be abandoned. Not again, so I made the choice to leave first. I booked my flight and printed out a divorce agreement that gave me nothing, no money, no property. I signed it, scheduled it to be delivered in 3 days, and headed back home one last time. When I walked in, Heather was already in the kitchen, making dinner. One, it didn't matter that he was this billionaire CEO. He still insisted on cooking for me every single day like a loyal husband. 2, but even the perfect husband can be tempted to cheat on his wife. When he heard the door open, he casually wiped his hands on the apron he was wearing. He walked over and planted a kiss on my forehead. The scent of his body wash hit me first, warm and familiar. But then there was something else, something sharp, light, and floral. Not mine. My heart felt like it dropped a little lower, and my gaze turned cold. "Why are you back so late, babe? Didn't the driver bring you home? It's freezing out there, so don't walk around, or you're gonna catch a cold and end up with another headache." He crouched down, and before I could react, he was already slipping off my shoes and swapping them for slippers. His hands too paused when they touched my toes, cold as ice, and instinctively, he cupped them in his palms, warming them up. I used to feel something in sweet moments like this. Warmth. Delight. But now, nothing. Just walked around the neighborhood for a bit. It's close. I wasn't cold. When he was sure my feet were warm, he slid the slippers on and straightened up. "Guess what I got you this month?" he whispered, leaning in with a playful smile like it was some big surprise. But I didn't even blink, just answered, a high heel brand. Because of course, he wasn't the kind of guy who just bought gifts. He bought brands. Thanks to his frequent so-called surprises, I now own stakes in at least 100 companies too. If I'd lingered a second too long on some ad or product, contracts just showed up the next day. Last time, it was high heels. He chuckled, all amused, and flicked my nose like I was some kid he adored. Whoa, my wife's getting too smart now. Guess I gotta be more careful with surprises next time, huh? I wiped at my nose, trying to erase the touch of his finger. You've given me so many surprises, it's my turn now to prep some for you. Heather, it's been, what, years since we met? Wow, feels like just yesterday. I've got something for you, too. You'll get it in 3 days. Don't forget to check. The way his eyes lit up was almost painful. He pulled me into his arms, voice bubbling over with excitement too. Oh, my wife has really grown. You're even gonna give me gifts now, yeah. Oh, you're gonna make me cry, babe. We've got so many more decades ahead of us. I'm gonna document every moment I get with you, tell it to our kids, and maybe even carve it into my headstone someday. I stayed quiet. His sweet voice buzzed in my ears, but it felt distant. Oh, Heather, there's no time left for us. No. Another decade. Later that evening, after dinner, he handed me the contract for the high heel brand and asked me to sign it. Babe, I've already spoken with the brand. They've got some limited edition designs this season, and I told them to set aside your size. Tomorrow, I'll take you to see them. They're all your style. His eyes sparkled with anticipation, the excitement written plainly across his face too. I signed the papers without looking up, my voice flat. All right, thanks. He was busy staring at his phone, completely missing the way my expression hardened. Heels are nice, but they're not exactly comfortable. Let the driver take you from now. Or okay. Or if I'm home, I'll drive you myself, he said, absent-mindedly scrolling. Heather, you don't have to do all this for me. He cut me off before I could finish. Shannon, you're my whole world. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you happy. Besides, with how amazing you are, if I don't spoil you, what if someone else steals you away? As he spoke, he locked eyes with me, his gaze burning. His hair, streaked with gray from donating to bone marrow for me, caught the overhead lights like a badge of honor. But none of these gestures, these gifts were what I needed. And he'd never understand that. Love wasn't there anymore. No need for someone to steal me away. I'd leave on my own. After staring at me for 2 seconds, his gaze returned to his phone. I forced a faint smile. Still working at this hour. You might also like. 3. You used to leave work at the office no matter how busy you were, I casually pointed out. Heather's fingers froze mid-typing, and he glanced up at me, guilt flashing across his face. Oh, things have just been hectic lately, babe. It'll be over soon, I promise. Go get some rest now, okay? As I walked past him toward the bedroom, I stole a glance at his phone. The screen showed a crying emoji, a message from another woman. Another lie. But I didn't say a word. I just went to the bedroom and sank into bed. Opening my Instagram, I switched to a dummy account and searched for the page of Jennifer Herman, a barely known 3 actress. 2 hours ago, she'd posted a new update. In her post, she flaunted a pair of unreleased heels from the same brand Heather just handed over to me earlier tonight. The comment section was brutal. People accused her of wearing fakes, saying she couldn't afford the real thing, and was just trying to act rich. She claimed she was actually the brand's yet-to-be-announced ambassador. Apparently, her boyfriend had already finalized the deal, and the contract was ready to be signed. Even the high heels in the photo were gifts from the brand. Nobody believed her, though. It wasn't unusual for someone like her to buy knockoffs. But she refused to admit it and argued with the commenters. I scrolled through the comments one by one until a newly created account caught my attention. The user was claiming to be working at the brand. I know her boyfriend. He's one of the execs. He made the call for her to be the brand ambassador. In fact, the shoot starts tomorrow. Skeptics quickly fired back. She's an up-and-comer at best. No way she has a boyfriend like that. Gosh, does she think she's the next Shannon Walsh? Nice try, but creating a dummy account to clear your name. If there are no shoots tomorrow, oh well, you better prepare to be humiliated. And good luck dodging a lawsuit for leaking the designs. But within a minute, that same account posted a photo of the signed endorsement contract. Then, as if to silence everyone, the user dropped a statement. 3. Well, see the shoots tomorrow for yourself. I shut off my phone and rubbed my aching temples. When I headed to the bathroom, I overheard Heather on a call. What's the photo shoot team doing? If they can't do this, fire them. I told you to prioritize the shoot. Do I need to repeat myself? Drop everything else. If the materials aren't out by tomorrow, none of you are coming back to work, you understand? The owner of that dummy account backing Jennifer was my husband. At that moment, it felt like all the strength was drained from my body. I leaned against the wall, silent tears streaming down my face. When Heather noticed me, I was still trembling, struggling to pull myself together. He looked so afraid that his face turned pale, scooping me up like he was about to rush me to the ER. He didn't even bother to put on his shoes. I steadied myself with one hand against the doorframe, took a shaky breath, and shook my head. My voice cracked as I choked on my words. I'm fine. I just got emotional reading a sad novel. Don't worry about me. Go ahead, finish your work. He pressed his face against mine, nuzzling me softly. How about you stop reading sad stories, Didn't I tell you, I want to make you the happiest woman in the world? All those heartbreaks in those stories aren't real, but our happiness is. Not real. 3 Then why does it hurt so much just to breathe? Maybe his reaction had somehow made him feel closer to me. But his phone wouldn't stop vibrating, buzzing with one message after another. And he gave me a smile, an awkward one. Just a little more work. I swear I'm almost done. I didn't respond. Barefoot, I walked back to the bedroom alone. By midnight, I heard the door shut. Oh, he'd broken his promise again. He left the villa in the dead of night. I didn't need to ask where he was going. I just threw on a black coat, pulling it tight around me as I trailed behind him like a thief. After wandering for a while, he stopped in front of another apartment in the neighborhood. I watched as he rang the doorbell, and it revealed a woman. Jennifer. She was wearing this ridiculously revealing outfit, a tight, black bodysuit. That bitch even pressed my husband against the doorway. Thanks for speaking up for me, Mr. Walsh. I owed you one, so I've got a little gift for you. But you'll have to unwrap it yourself. You might also like. For Jennifer took my husband's hand and guided it to the ribbon at her waist, her seductive intentions painfully clear. I gasped for air like I was drowning. But not matter how hard I tried, I couldn't breathe. I watched them step inside together, all wrapped up in each other, and I ran. Like a coward. Straight back home. I lay awake all night, my eyes open until the first light of dawn, and finally, Heather called. Babe, you up? Work ran late last night, didn't want to wake you, so I didn't come home. How about I pick you up? We'll go shopping. Today's on me, anything you want. God, how could this man juggle between 2 women, and still say the same sweet words to me for like he still meant them? I splashed cold water on my face to pull myself together. By the time I came downstairs, he was already waiting in his car. The moment he saw me, his face filled with concern, as though it physically pained him to see me. Babe, why do you look so tired? Did you not sleep? You know what, babe, let's skip it. I'll just have everything sent here. You can take your time and pick whatever you like. I bit my lip, refusing his thoughtful offer. For this last gift, I wanted to see with my own eyes what kind of surprise he had prepared for me. At the boutique, he had me sit on a couch. While he dashed around, coming back with all sorts of drinks, milkshake, tea, coffee, everything I used to love, but today, I couldn't bring myself to take even a sip. When he noticed, he didn't get mad. Instead, he blamed himself. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have worked so late last night. I know you hate the cold and the dark, yet I left you all alone. Punish me if you want, babe. I'll accept it. Then he grabbed my hand and tried to press it against his face like he wanted me to slap him. But I pulled my hand away. I'm fine. I just don't feel like drinking. The brand manager was watching the whole thing and couldn't help but comment like he was jealous. Mr. Walsh, you really are the ultimate husband. I've never seen a man dote on his wife like this. No wonder you're so successful. He chuckled and handed Heather a cigarette. But Heather shook his head with a polite smile. I don't smoke. My wife hates the smell, it bothers her. The manager smiled awkwardly in return. All right, I'll have someone bring over the packaged shoes now. Whoever was watching or what people thought, Heather didn't mind them for my happiness. The staff looked at us with envy, sighing at how reality could sometimes feel like a romantic novel. When the shoes arrived, the staff brought over a huge pile. Heather rolled up his sleeves and knelt down in front of me, swapping out each pair himself. One by one, he helped me try them on. For every time, he couldn't resist complimenting me. You look perfect in everything. Should we just buy them all? You could wear a new pair every hour. Just then, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen to see the caller ID, and his expression shifted. Without a word, he stepped outside to take the call. Minutes passed. Too many. But he still wasn't back. Finally, I got up, put on the shoes I came in with, and followed him out. The second he saw me, he tried to casually cover the screen of his phone with his hand. Babe, what are you doing out here? It's cold. Go back inside and keep trying those shoes on. I'll be right back. No, it's fine. You're busy and I'm not feeling well anyway. I'm heading home. I left so quickly that he didn't have time to forestop me. But when I turned the corner, I stopped. I stayed hidden, watching everything in the boutique. A few minutes later, I saw him hang up, hand the shoes over to the staff, and instruct them to send everything to the photography studio. Then, right in front of everyone, he wrapped his arms around Jennifer and kissed her. Not just a quick kiss, a long one. Deep, too. It went on for 5 minutes. When they finally pulled apart, my husband even flirtatiously pinched her butt. The same staff who were gushing over me earlier didn't even flinch. Like they've seen it all the time. So yeah, I guess I'm the only one who didn't know about my husband's affair. The shoot started and Heather stayed right for there, watching his mistress pose the entire time. The manager smirked knowingly and teased him. Damn, she looks so perfect. Where'd you find such a gem? You might also like sorry alpha mistaken rejecting I got over you sorry, alpha. I got over you wolfbane groom mistaken groom night glow the cold alpha rejecting the cold alpha C5 he let out a scoff, his eyes trailing lazily down Jennifer's thigh, still exposed below her over the knee boots. That is impressive. The best part oh, you haven't even seen it yet. The manager smacked his lips, clearly envious. When I hit your level, I'm keeping 100 just like her. But hey, your wife isn't bad either. Even without makeup, she's a stunner. The second that the manager mentioned me, Heather's face hardened. Don't even think about touching my wife. Unless you're ready to lose everything. The manager quickly backtracked, nodding and stammering apologies, swearing he'd make sure I'd never find out anything but at this point, I don't care anymore. I turned and bolted, desperate to get out of there, only to bump straight into a delivery guy rushing in with boxes. Mrs. Walsh, shoo. I cut him off. Don't tell anyone you saw me. Unless you're looking for a new job. I didn't even know how I got back home. When I finally looked up, I was already standing outside the door. One of my shoes was missing, and I looked like a mess. When I checked the time, I realized 8 hours had gone by since the shoot started. I ran to the closest convenience store and cleared the shelves of every bottle of alcohol they had. After paying, I stepped outside and as if fate wasn't done screwing with me, I into my husband's mistress I ran 5 the way her eyes lit up when she saw me ugh. That smug little gleam. But her words, sickly sweet. Oh my god, you're Mrs. Walsh, right. I've been such a huge fan of yours for ages. I even sent gifts during your wedding live stream. I can't believe we live in the same area. You know, I used to be really jealous of your love story. I mean, who wouldn't dream of a husband like yours? And guess what? My dream came true. She giggled, tucking her hair behind her ear in this fake, innocent way. Her voice dropped to this conspiratorial whisper like we were best friends sharing secrets. My apartment here. It's a gift from him basically just like a little hello present, you know. Anyway, hey, can I add you on IG? We 5 should totally hang out sometime, maybe get facials together or something. I didn't want to let her see me break, so I kept my face blank and showed her my username. After adding me, she hooked her arm through mine like we were best friends. AST, if it was a joke, I walked into the neighborhood together with my husband's mistress. She kept chattering in my ear, talking about how her boyfriend gave her an apartment, a company, and even scripts written just for her. I just nodded along. Finally, at my front door, I managed to escape, muttering a quick goodbye before shutting myself inside. The second I was alone, I cracked open a few bottles of alcohol, hoping to drink myself into oblivion. But it didn't take long before my phone 5 buzzed with a message. From her. Hey, Shannon, do you like roses? Today's shoot went so well, and my boyfriend says he's buying out every rose in the city to celebrate. That's a lot, right? I can send some to you if you'd like. I stared at that shameless message for a moment before deleting it without replying. By the time Heather got home, I'd already had quite a bit to drink. He froze in the doorway, his eyes wide. He didn't even take off his shoes, just rushed to the kitchen to make some hangover soup for me. I grabbed his hand as he passed by and pulled him toward me like a brat. Babe, I want roses. Can you get me some? Like right now. He let out a chuckle. But his eyes they were empty. 5 Why the sudden interest in flowers? Can I get them for you tomorrow, babe? I've got so much to do tonight, you know. Did you drink too much? Tears welled up in my eyes as I shook my head bitterly. You can't, can you? Oh well, never mind. Go ahead, finish your work. Babe, what's wrong? Didn't you sleep well last night? How about you head to bed early tonight? I'll make you soup for your hangover first, but after that, I've really got to get back to the company. He kept asking me what was wrong, but I didn't say another word. What was the point? Nothing I said would change a damn thing. He watched me sip the hangover soup he made, and then just like that, he left me alone without a word. About an hour later, my husband's mistress texted me to open the door. At the doorway, there they were, roses. I bit my lip and stomped on them like a maniac, crushing them under my feet. Again and again, until petals were crushed underfoot, scattering on the floor like a massacre of red, and I was too exhausted to stand. Then my phone buzzed again. It was her sending me a text again. This time, she sent a picture of dinner, a perfectly set table, candles glowing softly, and a homemade cake. I noticed my husband's hand in the shot, still wearing his wedding ring. I stumbled back into the living room, grabbed the leftover bottle of whiskey, and drained it in one go. I sank drunk on the couch and dialed the agent handling the island. That stupid island. Once the symbol of our happiness, now it just made my skin crawl. When the call ended, I passed out on the couch. I woke up to the soft press of familiar lips on mine. Heather's breath smelled faintly like cream. What's with all these cancellation texts? What did you cancel? There was a nervous edge to his voice. I sat up and leaned back, putting space between us. My voice was calm, almost detached. Oh, nothing. Just scanned some random QR codes yesterday. Figured I'd cancel them before they tried scamming me. I glanced toward the doorway. The 6 massacre of roses from last night had already been cleaned up by the staff. I let out a small breath of relief. Did you finish your work? He nodded. His shoulders relaxed at my response, before heading into the kitchen to make breakfast. I picked up my phone to check on the island sale, but instead, I saw a new post blowing up online. Some random commenter who'd called Jennifer out the other day had now written this long, dramatic apology. The reason? Jennifer had just been announced as the new face of a luxury brand. Breakfast tasted like cardboard, and Heather wasn't doing much better. He spent most of the meal staring at his phone, this faint, unreadable smile tugging at his lips. When breakfast was done, he suddenly froze for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse. Babe, something came up at work. I gotta head out. Don't worry about the dishes, I'll handle them later. Before I could say anything, he'd already slipped on his shoes and was out the door. He was so in a hurry that he didn't even take off his apron. He didn't even have time to ask me why I'd been drinking last night. Well, I guess there's only so much space in one heart. Once someone else moves in, there's no room left for you. Not even 5 minutes after he left, Jennifer's name lit up my phone again. This time, it was a photo of 2 sets of lingerie laid out on a bed, one black, one white. Hey, which one do you think I should wear? If it were your husband, which would he like more? I didn't bother replying. I was too busy packing. By the time I finished, every trace of me was gone from that villa. On the way to the airport, I got a text from Heather. You sold the island. Why? What's going on? I typed my reply, make sure you're home to accept my gift. Oh, and Heather, you're out of chances. And then, I turned off my phone, pulled out the SIM card, and tossed it in the nearest trash. Boarding the plane, I felt lighter, but as the plane took off, a dull ache settled in my chest. I'd planned this all so carefully, but heck, the final goodbye hurt so much more than I expected. 2 long decades of love and trust. How could it be possible to let go when he wasn't just my husband, he'd been my family? When my mom died and my dad remarried, Heather was the only constant in my life. I used to put up walls, rejecting his kindness and care, but I always remembered it. Somehow, without even realizing it, he earned my trust and affection. Besides my mom, he's the only one in this world who's ever truly loved me. How could I not see all he sacrificed for me? 7 as a kid, it was the warm lights he left on for me and the thermos of hot water he always carried. As we grew up, it was the new clothes he'd gift me every season and many more. With him, I thought I'd never felt jealous. Not once. Everyone used to envy me. My husband worked himself to the bone, day and night, just to make sure I had everything I could ever want. In just a few years, he built his company into something massive, something people couldn't stop talking about. Of course, there were temptations. That glamour of that world was way more overwhelming than I ever expected. And honestly, there were moments when I thought about leaving him. I even went as far as checking out places 7 where I could just disappear. But every single time, he shut down whatever was trying to pull him away. And he always came home on time. He showed me, over and over, that I didn't pick the wrong man. I used to be so lucky that he was still the Heather I've known. All those moments from the past, one after another, made it crystal clear how much he loved me. I thought, as long as I showed the slightest sign of suspecting his affair, he would cut off his messy relationship with Jennifer without hesitation. But even with all that, I still left. Because here's the truth, you can't fix a broken mirror. It either was never broken, or it was never whole in the first place. 7 for 2 decades, Heather loved me with everything he had. After all that, I just can't tolerate even the slightest mistake. He was careful. He really thought he could hide his affair. But the thing is, I know him too well. I loved him more than he realized. So much so that I knew something was off from the tiniest change in his expression. A month ago, he started acting distant. He'd often zone out when he was with me. And I felt it, deep down I knew. I told myself I'd only give him one chance, but I ended up forgiving him over and over again. But I couldn't anymore. I realized I could never forgive betrayal. That perfect love everyone admired. It's 7 over now. And the thing that kills me is I can't even hate him, because he really did love me so much. I guess feelings just change in an instant. And maybe this is just how people are: messy, complicated. He loved me while he had his hands on another woman. He could talk to me about dreams and love while talking to his mistress about lust and desire. The sky outside is so clear, so blue. But I can't see anything ahead of me, can't see where to go from here. For 20 years, I lived under Heather's protection. What the hell am I supposed to do now that I'm gone? I wandered to my destination, barely 7 knowing how I got there. The cold wind hit me so hard that it made me sneeze. Heather, it's freezing here. My head started to pound. The familiar words ran through my mind, but I shook my head and forced them out. Shannon, oh right, I'm Nancy Newnham now. Nancy, just keep moving forward. Don't look back. Remember the promise you made at Mom's funeral. I didn't take a dime of Heather's money when I left. All I had was the little bit Mom left me when she passed. It's not much. 7 after 20 years of inflation and currency conversion, it's barely enough to last me a month here. I found the cheapest place I could, just something to keep me out of the cold, and bought myself a coat. Without Heather paying, I realized how expensive clothes are these days. I passed a little corner stand, bought a new SIM card, and inserted it into my phone. As soon as I turned it on, a news alert popped up. CEO of Walsh Innovations Incorporated spends millions to reclaim his wife's stolen island. That idiot. I frowned and told myself not to click it, but I still did. Some part of me still hoped it was just some PR stunt. After all, I sold that island for a ridiculously ML71 low price. Half because I was furious, half because I was so disappointed. I just wanted to sever ties with the past as quickly as possible. I didn't even think about how much it was worth. But as I read the article, whatever hope I had left just shattered into pieces. 8 Heather bought the island back. Paid freaking times what it was worth when I sold it. Even after subtracting what I sold it for, he's still down millions. I don't understand him anymore. We've already separated and the betrayal has already happened. Now, trying to fix things, who is he doing it for? The comments section seems unaware of our conflicts and is still crazy about our image as a couple. I didn't make a mistake being a fan of this guy. So loyal. I still have screenshots from their wedding saved on my phone. God, I dream of having a husband like him someday. Girl, keep dreaming. Do you even look like Shannon? She was the hottest girl in school, you know. What's that got to do with it? They were childhood sweethearts. I heard he chased her for 20 years. Even after becoming successful, he never changed. Hell, even his assistants are all men. There's only one Heather in this world. A few rare voices dared to cut through the dumb comments. People in their league. All we see is what he wants us to see. Only his wife knows the truth. I liked that comment. I was about to close the app when I saw an anonymous account comment something that made my blood freeze. Stop arguing, you idiots. Men like him are all the same. Bet you didn't know he has a kid with his mistress. In fact, he spends just as much on her as he does on his wife. Marriage is just for show. His true love, his 8 other women. The location, the same city as me. Who else could it be if not the mistress? And what kid? Is Jennifer pregnant? I remembered the last picture she sent me, picking out her outfit for that occasion. The nausea hit so fast that I had to grab the table to steady myself. No wonder Heather had been so busy, spending more and more time with her. This was the reason. The heartbreak was unbearable, but at this point I'd gone numb. Tears blurred my vision, spilling onto my phone screen as I turned it off. 5 years ago, I had surgery. It left me weak, so weak I've never fully recovered. The doctors told me over and over that I'd probably never have kids. 8 even if I could, there was a genetic condition. They advised against it. And Heather, he said it didn't matter. He'd talk to his family, make them understand. He didn't even like kids, he'd said. And if I ever felt lonely, we could adopt. He told me my health came first. He'd take care of me, make me strong again. Every word he said back then is burned into my memory. But now I know those words didn't mean anything. Back then, he did it for me. Maybe love makes everyone impulsive. Now he's doing it for her. I should feel lucky I walked away. None of it matters anymore. 8 Now my only problem is survival. I spent the whole afternoon wandering around my neighborhood looking for work. Went into every little shop and asked every single owner. No one was hiring. By the time the sun went down, my feet were sore, my stomach was growling, and I was so damn frustrated I just grabbed a bottle of water and a few groceries to take home. I can't cook, so I pulled up a recipe video and tried to figure it out step by step. For Pete's sake, even the cooking video had ads. And of course, one of them was for my husband's mistress's stupid high-heeled shoe brand. The ad was full of pictures of Jennifer. I lost my appetite right then and there and sank onto the couch, staring blankly at the 8th ceiling. For the first time, I started to regret everything. If I'd just kept my walls up, stayed cold, and never said yes to Heather all those ago, would I be here now? No one could answer that. Years, but if I could go back in time, I think I'd still say yes to him. I sat there for an hour, lost in thought. In the end, hunger won. 9 I sat back down and opened the video again. This time, I kept it running as I made dinner, hoping I wouldn't see that stupid ad again. And I didn't. Instead, the top story was about how the brand ended its contract and replaced its ambassador. Jennifer was kicked out of the company. The company had paid a hefty penalty just to cut her loose. They even scrambled to pull down all her promotional photos. The reason? Oh, they claimed it was a scheduling conflict. They even held a press conference to clear up any rumors. But what schedule conflicts could someone like Jennifer have? 9 An actress barely hanging on to her career would kill for a luxury brand endorsement like that. No way she'd turn it down unless she had no choice. And through all of it, she stayed completely quiet, not even trying to defend herself. Meanwhile, the same person who was kissing her ass a week ago, he was now turning on her. He brought up her boyfriend and went frank, leaving a sarcastic comment. "Aw, your boyfriend dumped you already, girl. Guess he had his fun, eh?" If this were the Jennifer I used to know, she'd have definitely clapped back. Probably even dragged Heather's name into it to prove a point. But this time, nothing. Her entire comment section was a war zone. And she didn't say a word. I started to get a sinking feeling in my gut. I closed the app, forcing myself to stop thinking about the past. I needed rest. But in the middle of the night, my phone buzzed a few more times. I was too tired to check and finally drifted off. When I finally looked in the morning, I saw the notifications. They were all about him. Some paparazzi had caught him walking into a police station. The photos were everywhere and speculation was wild. Is he under investigation? Oh no, his company's in trouble. Usually, his PR team is all over those kinds of rumors, but this time, dead silent. Not a single statement, no explanations. Then, as if to fuel the fire, news broke that he was putting parts of his company up for sale. Nobody could figure out why. But I knew. He was trying to keep that dumb promise he'd made years ago. When his business was just taking off, he'd told me, "Everything I do for you. And if you ever leave me, I'll give it all up, everything to win you back." He knows I'm seeing the news. And that trip to the police station. He probably reported me missing. But it's too late. The version of me he loved, Shannon, died the moment he cheated on me. I finished my little sad sandwich and headed out to look for work again. 9 This time, I expanded my search, covering half the city. Finally, I stopped at a small cafe, feeling completely drained. The owner was kind enough to offer me a 1-month trial period. I thanked him in my embarrassingly bad Italian. He just laughed, tilting his head, and spoke in my language. "You're very pretty. They say pretty girls bring good luck. Maybe you'll bring some to my cafe." I tried to smile, but honestly, it probably looked more like a grimace. I mean, it was a nice thing to say, but we both knew it wasn't true. The owner wasted no time pairing me up with a coworker to teach me how to make coffee. 9 I had zero experience. All I could do was watch, clumsy fingers jotting down notes. When my coworker got busy, I kept practicing on my own, over and over again. By the end of my shift, I'd finally managed to make something that actually looked like coffee. But there was no one to share that small victory with. At 9 in the evening, I locked up the cafe after finishing my own cup of coffee. My phone was dead, so I couldn't even use the flashlight for the dark streets. Back at my apartment, I plugged it in and waited for it to power back up. The moment it turned on, a flood of messages poured in. One after another, so fast I could barely keep up. The algorithm is really unreal. 9 It still connects me back to my old life, although I've cut ties with my past. 10 I erased every trace of my old life. But somehow, it still found its way back to me. The push notifications kept popping up, either about Heather selling off most of his company, or him and Jennifer getting into a fight at some hospital. I didn't even read them. I just swiped and deleted them. Everything went exactly how I thought it would. After I caught him cheating, he didn't even hesitate. He dumped Jennifer right away. But what's the point? It's too late to fix everything. The pain snuck up on me slowly, but before I knew it, I was drowning. Every lonely night, I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. After that, I started clicking, not interested, on every piece of news about him. If something really upset me, I reported it. Over time, there were fewer and fewer updates about anything back home. Finally, the last person connecting me to my old life disappeared. And I just kept going, day by day. A month later, I got my first paycheck. I was shocked by how proud I felt. For the first time, I was making it on my own. I wasn't the same fragile girl he used to protect. I had my own life now. On the 36th day after we split, I saw someone outside the cafe. From behind, he looked just like him 10, but I didn't go over. 2 days later, I spotted someone near my apartment building. His side profile reminded me of him. But there's no way he had a beard that long. After that, Heather stopped popping into my head as much. But one day, my manager called out to me. "Hey, Nancy, do you know this guy? He's been going around with your photo, but he's asking about someone named Shannon." My hand froze mid-air while I was cleaning cups. And no, I don't know him. Must be someone who looks like me. I mean, girls with my face are pretty common back home, you know. Oh, really? Everyone back there must be 10, all gorgeous then. The manager didn't seem to think much of it and went back to work. But my heart was pounding and I just couldn't calm down. After work, I went to buy some bread. Just as I was about to pay, a hand reached out and stopped me. "It's on me, Heather." His voice was rougher than I remembered and he looked older and worn down. He carried the bag of bread for me as we walked out of the store and I couldn't hold back anymore. "What are you doing here? How the hell did you even find me?" He looked down at the bread in his hand and gave me this faint, broken smile. "You said once for your 25th birthday 10 you wanted to visit here." I remembered. "And you don't know how to cook, so I figured you'd still be buying bread like this. I've been waiting for you for so long." "Shannon," I raised a hand to cut him off and took the bread from him. "There's nothing more to say. You already called the cops. You should know this by now. Shannon is gone. I'm not her anymore. You got the divorce papers, didn't you? Look, we have nothing to do with each other anymore, so please don't bother me again." I turned and walked away quickly, but he followed me, his steps matching mine. "Please, babe, just let me explain first. Jennifer's gone. She won't bother you again, and neither will her baby 10, it's all on me. I was stupid, out of my mind. I'm such a bastard. I deserve this, I deserve all of it. I wasn't thinking, Shannon. I wasn't thinking at all." He slapped himself hard across the face, blood streaming down, freezing into frost in the cold. "Please, babe, forgive me this once. I saw the disgusting messages she sent you. I already taught her a lesson. She's done. She's banned from the industry. You'll never see her face again on any screen. Babe, I'm begging you. Just give me one more chance. I've sold all the companies I own back home. The ones I couldn't sell, I've entrusted to others to manage. If you want to stay here, I'll stay with you. I'll cook for you every day like I always did. I'll be here every day, waiting for you to come home. 11 Shannon, I've loved you for 20 years. How the hell am I supposed to live without you? Let me stay with you, please. Shannon, I can't live without you. Do you have any idea how miserable I've been this past month? I froze in my tracks and then I turned to look at Heather. It had only been a month, but deep lines formed around his eyes. His hair, once just streaked with gray, was completely white now. He loves me. God, he's loved me for so long. I've always known that. Do you remember the message I sent you when I left? Heather, you're out of chances. There's actually something I've 11 been keeping to myself all these years. Listen, I love you too. I love you more than you could ever imagine. You see, that's exactly why I can't stand this. I can't share your love with another woman. No, Heather, not even a little bit. Please, just go. Don't make me hate you. He waited 20 years to hear me say that I loved him. And today, I finally said it. His body shook and he almost couldn't stay on his feet. His face was so pale it looked like the cold wind might blow him away. But I didn't look back. Not this time. I know deep down that what I loved wasn't really him, it was the memory of him, the way he used to make me feel. It felt perfect back then, one of a kind. But perfection and flaws, they can't exist. Together 11, a flaw is a flaw. Perfection is perfection. Goodbye, Heather. Goodbye to the man I used to know.